Welcome back, everybody, to Final Weapon. And if there is one topic that is going to be talked about for the next probably 10 years, it's going to be the fact that Sony and Nintendo have joined up to make a Zelda movie. And our very own Cyrus Rajpal happened to go into the set and take pictures. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't him. But we were actually able, online, I'm sure everyone has seen by this point, some set pictures and videos leaked, and we just want to talk about the Zelda movie because it's pretty exciting, and I think at least it has the potential to be massive for the franchise.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually flew all the way to New Zealand to check it out. Um, no,
Okay,
I wish I
stop
did.
talking because the Nintendo ninjas are going to come after you if you keep talking.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that is true. That is true. Good point. Um, yeah, I mean the set photos we've seen so far are definitely looking promising. I had my concerns when the movie was first announced, but everything we've heard since then has made me pretty optimistic.
Sweet.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited about the film. Again, I wasn't a huge fan of the Mario movie. I do think that it's all right. You know, it made $1 billion, but I was hoping that we didn't go into that same energy for Zelda. And based on these set photos, it seems like they're picking some pretty crazy designs. So
Yeah, I mean, Mario only made him $1 billion. Like, gosh,
only
God,
$1 billion.
Illumination,
Yeah, only
come
$1 billion,
on.
bro. But it's just like the money is one thing, but the style and the execution is another. Like some of the character archetypes in that movie aren't my favorite.
Ugh.
You know, it's kind of just a quippy, silly. Very happy. At least we don't know what the dialogue in the Zelda movie is going to be. It could be freaking like, what is it? The CDI Zelda. You know, like it could be like that.
Ouch.
It could be like that, but I don't think it's going to be like that. So, I mean, we're in 2025. Hopefully, the movie is like actually saucy and has incredible representations of the characters that we've come to know and love.
Yeah,
So.
definitely. And I think one of the things that everyone, and we've also talked about, over the last few months, especially as the date got revealed for the movie and the director and this and that, was really the question of what game might this adapt? And I think most people kind of looked at Breath of the Wild as the game just because how important and how huge that game is on the Switch. But I personally have always kind of taken the approach that they're going to do what they did with the Mario movie and with the Mario Galaxy movie, I presume. I mean, we can't make that assumption until it's out. But kind of taking a bunch of elements from the different major games in the Zelda series and putting them into a movie with a new storyline. And at least based on the set photos, I feel like that's what we're heading towards.
Yeah.
Agreed. I think there are certain approaches they took with the designs that are certainly odd if you're looking at it in a vacuum, but when you actually think about it broader scale, it sounds exactly what you're talking about. Like, Zelda has a blue dress on, but she has kind of a brunette hair. Link has the green tunic. Impa, who appears to, who is there, has the, more of an Ocarina of Time-esque design. So they're clearly taking inspiration from a bunch of different games, whether it's Ocarina of Time, Breath of the Wild, or even Twilight Princess.
I wanted to see the best aspects of every game, right, in the movie. My favorite Ganondorf is from Tears of the Kingdom. Like, I think that's the coolest Ganondorf has ever been. Every Zelda game has, an aspect that's better than the other, in my opinion. I mean, it's subjective, but Link being in a green tunic is a great thing. I would have been shocked if they went for the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom look. There's no way they would have done that. I don't think they would have done that. It wouldn't make sense. Link has been green for a long time. And Twilight Princess Link that's the Link that we know, right? That's the Link that Nintendo uses for all of its marketing material. And that's been, one of the most popular Links for quite some time until Breath of the Wild came out. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the design to do if you want to have Link. And I totally agree. When you go to the Nintendo Tokyo stores and also the ones in San Francisco and New York, they have their main kind of characters there being, Mario, Link in that iconic outfit, Splatoon, Animal Crossing, Pikmin, etc. But I definitely think they want to lean into that because that is Link's most recognizable outfit. And sure, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, great designs, but I feel like that's kind of a little too much too soon for people that are trying to enter Zelda. So, Saris, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you on that. How iconic that green tunic and especially the Twilight Princess look is. I actually went to one of those Nintendo stores recently, and pretty much everything they had there was Twilight Princess merch. So that is still a big game in Nintendo's mind. Though it's also important to note that there was also Breath of the Wild merch, Tears of the Kingdom merch. There was even Skyward Sword merch. So that idea of like combining all of the different elements is definitely something that Nintendo's going to be thinking about. Though I do think that there is a place for the blue tunic from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom somewhere, whether it's as like an Easter egg or potentially how superhero movies will do like a new costume in the second film, something like that, where it's just he wears the blue tunic in the second film and sees that sort of improvement of that style. Could go either way, but I think the big point of all this is how much potential there is in a project like this.
Definitely. And I think at least out of everyone here, Saris, you probably have the most extensive knowledge about Wes Ball and his kind of films he's done before and how his style might be for this movie. Because I've seen a few of his films, but you're definitely more knowledgeable, I think. Maybe Rain is, but I think you're the most knowledgeable one here.
I'm really not familiar with Wes Ball, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a movie guy. I know a lot about different movies and directors. I actually haven't seen Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is Wes Ball's most recent major movie, but I did see the original Maze Runner titles, and they're pretty good. I think tonally they're kind of right. Especially with what I've seen from Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, that sort of big open expanse and different factions and different personalities that are all expressed through, the world building above all else. I think Wes Ball is very perfectly suited for that based on his previous work. And I was actually just looking up who the writer for the movie is, because I think that's obviously just as much important as the director, if not potentially more so. And for better or worse, it is the person behind the Jurassic World movies and the Detective Pikachu movie.
Oh no!
So,
oh no! Oh no!
This could either go very well or very badly.
I definitely understand apprehension with that, but I will say, like, you have to look at Illumination, and I know Rain, you definitely, and I know Saris doesn't like Chris Pratt, so there's that.
Ugh.
But I will say with the Mario movie, it was just so clearly made with love to the entire franchise, and it so clearly has Nintendo's just stamp of approval over that. So I'm not worried, regardless of staff or direction on the Zelda movie, that it's going to turn out good, solely because Miyamoto's so involved now in that side of the business, and he's not going to let them release something that isn't up to standards. And we know like what Nintendo standards are.
Yeah, Nintendo has very high standards. I mean, I agree with you. Mario movie was released with love. I think it was just what I wanted it to be wasn't what it was, inevitably. And obviously, like, I don't have the biggest ego in the world. Like, I'm not going to be able to just make a better movie than that. I'm not one of those guys that watches a movie and goes, you know what they could have done? They could have done this, right? I liked it as just a casual Mario movie, and I think it did its job well, right? Like, that movie's a 5 out of 10 to me. But if we're talking about just a casual movie watching experience with the family, it's an incredible family film. It does the job, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel like anyone stepped back and was like, wow, the Mario movie, insane plot, amazing character development. Like, it was definitely.
I don't think it was ever gonna have that.
Oh no, it was very.
No.
Nor
did
it did what it needed to do, and it did it well. I will say the Galaxy movie looks much better visually. Very excited for that.
I agree with that.
But with Zelda here, what are y'all hoping for, at least for story? So Rain, I'm curious on your thoughts. Like, if you could pick, because obviously, now let's ask this first. Do you think it's going to be an adaptation of a story, or do you think it's going to be like an original story?
I think it's going to be an original story, just because, like, the Mario movie was an original story. And it would be nice to see like a new story, considering that we've had, Ocarina of Time. Again, we did talk previously a little bit about this, so I'm going to reiterate these things as if I never said them. Ocarina of Time, to me, is probably the easiest story for them to approach the movie with, because it's really, it's simplistic, it's easy to understand, and I think it goes over well. I think audiences will love, the time travel element of Ocarina of Time, right? Like, obviously, if they're doing Ocarina of Time, we don't know who the adult actor is for Link, right? I think it's best for them to do an original plot, because the games before Ocarina of Time are not very complex, right? And even then, the plots outside of like a Majora's Mask is too complicated, right? Like that's a sequel. Twilight Princess is too complicated. I would even say Twilight Princess might be a little too artsy for a film, right? Like, it's a little too artsy for a film. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, no sir. That's not what they're not gonna do that, because that doesn't even make sense, right? It would be very difficult to adapt those open world titles for a movie format, right? It wouldn't flow well, I think. So I think it's either they do something like Ocarina of Time, which is, the first game in that trilogy for, OOT, MM, and TT, or they do an original story altogether. But I think they're going to do an original story.
No, I have to agree. Approach. And I definitely think that there's a lot of challenges, like you said, with adapting Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Because, there's stories there, but pretty much the entire, like, midpoint of the entire game has to be completely redone. Like, if you look at Breath of the Wild, you go get the 4 champions. I don't know how you make that engaging in a film format. And with Tears of the Kingdom,
I agree.
It's kind of the same thing. So I definitely agree. I do think that I wouldn't be surprised if we see a crossover of sorts with maybe they put Guardians in the film and have these kind of be just kind of statues here as maybe a teaser for the future or something. But I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that. But I don't expect it to be Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. But Cyrus, what are you thinking in terms of what kind of story we're going to be getting?
So I'm in a similar mind as Rain in that I kind of want it to be an original story, but with elements taken from different games, specifically in this case, Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild. Like the overall maybe premise, with how the kingdom is structured, maybe with the Sheikah guardians and stuff, as you were mentioning, and the relationship between Zelda and her father and Link obviously being the appointed knight, would be a good idea as the sort of groundwork where the story begins, but the exact sort of sequence of events is more similar to Ocarina of Time, because I think that's just a great way of centralizing it and making it appealing to both new and returning players. New and returning fans of the series. I don't think you can play this movie.
Yeah, no.
Unless they make bring it back to the olden days and make a movie adaptation. I mean, like a movie game of it.
They would never do that.
Never. It'd be funny, but never. But yeah, I think that approach would be really smart to do. And it opens the door. I think they can remove the sort of... maybe do something with the time travel still, but not old and young Link. Because I think having it so that... because they cast very young actors for both Link and Zelda. And having them grow old, especially if they intend to make this a franchise, is a good idea. Like, for this movie, you could do Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild. For a sequel, you could do Majora's Mask. For a third movie, you could do Wind Waker or something like that. And it's just a great way to build this world into something that, regardless of if you've never played a Zelda game before or if you've been playing since the very first one, you can jump in and find stuff to enjoy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's going to be stuff there for everyone. And I do think that it is going to be kind of a similar situation to the Mario movie in the case of, okay, we're looking at this and we want this to be enjoyable for people who know nothing about Zelda and for people who know so much about Zelda. So, kind of how Nintendo and the staff at Sony, funny enough, like kind of walked that line of, this is an approachable film, but it's got all the hidden in the lore, and we're pulling from the games, and it'll be interesting to see how they pull it off. I'm really curious, and I guess if there's like a couple elements that you guys are specifically looking for from the games to be implemented, like I know I mentioned the Guardians. Is there anything that y'all are hoping to see? And it could be like a scene too from one of the games.
Oh my God.
Rain, I'll let you take us away.
So if they do OOT, right? Bro, so I have the manga for Ocarina of Time, right? And this actually gives Link a voice. So he actually says things and he gives his perspective on what's going on. There's a scene where he looks up through the trees, in this big opening into the sky, in Kokiri Forest, in Kokiri Village, right? Link is looking up in the sky and he's like, I wonder what the world looks like out there. I'd love to have the kid waking up, that sequence from Ocarina of Time is killer. Like, it's just a killer opening. Actually, here's what I'll do. I'll hand it off to Cyrus and then I'll get to my part about what I wanted to say. So Cyrus, what would you want to see from this movie that has been done in a Zelda game already?
I think for me, sort of the close dynamic between Link and Zelda in both Spirit Tracks and the memories we see in Breath of the Wild is something I really want to see explored. I think Link should talk, even if it's in, short bursts. I don't think he should be very talkative, but I think he should have a voice. I think that's sort of like, I recently watched Predator Badlands in theaters, which for me is something that could very much translate into a Legend of Zelda movie. But the way the protagonist Deck interacts with Thea, the synth in the movie, is sort of what I want from Link and Zelda. That buddy cop, maybe there's something there between them, that sort of chemistry. It's that sort of starting out as, I'm just your protector, you're nothing to me, to, I will protect you with my life, and Zelda tries to protect Link in her own ways as well. I think that sort of relationship is going to be the key to the movie, and if they don't get that right, I don't think there will be a movie. And also just some good fight scenes, cheesy though it sounds. I think Wind Waker, weirdly enough, is one of the things I would want to see similar to the fights, where Link is a smaller guy in this movie because he's a kid. So that sort of David versus Goliath vibe that a lot of the fights in Wind Waker had would be really cool to explore, especially against like the bigger monsters. I think that's something that I really want to see in the movie.
Yeah, I didn't even consider the size difference thing, and you just mentioned it, and now I'm like thinking about how cool that would be. Castlevania Netflix, which is an adaptation that people are very mixed on, is taking aspects of different Castlevanias, but the main one it takes aspects from is Curse of Darkness. A lot of the show is based off of Curse of Darkness. So I feel like, again, if they approach the movie with any sort of story that they're basing it off of, it should be OOT, and then they should take aspects of other things that make Zelda great overall as a franchise. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say that I left.
No, I mean, I totally agree, and I think, Rain, to your point, 100% that has to be in the movie. Saris, to your point with the Zelda dynamic, that is so key, especially because you want these characters to be two characters that fans and newcomers especially really fall in love with. And if they're unable to kind of get that balance right, I do think this movie will fail. But I'm not worried about that, because I do think it will do really well and they'll get it nailed down. But moving forward a little bit, is there anything we talked about fights a little bit? Is there any other characters besides Ganon that you're hoping might appear? Because we now have confirmation. Impa We know Link, we know Zelda, we know Ganon. Anyone else beyond that you're hoping for? Because I do think that there are characters from Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild that could show up.
Vati.
Ooh.
Yeah. So the way that the Sonic movies are structured is that they'll kind of show like another character at the very end to kind of prepare you for the next film. Spoiler for Sonic 3, they did that with Metal Sonic and 8.
Mario did
right?
the same thing.
Mario did the same thing, exactly.
Yeah,
so,
Yoshi, the big villain of the next movie.
Right. So, yeah. I don't think we've seen Bowser Jr. at the end of Mario.
No,
but like
it's just
obviously,
Yoshi.
you know,
No, we saw the Yoshi egg.
Right. So with Sonic 3, which I feel like the ending was done a lot better, but Sonic 3 is a better film in my opinion. Again, I don't think Sonic's a better franchise, but Sonic had a better film. It's not a great achievement, Sega. Anyway, so what I will say is that they had both a heroic character and they had a villainous character at the end of Sonic 3 to give us, you know, kind of who would show up in the next film to really set the tone, right? Now we know what's going to happen.
No, it was sick to see Silver and Eggman.
Silver, oh my god, bro! Like, I need.
They just
like
be,
Sonic
they just
5
be
type
making up
stuff.
hedgehog names. I swear. Anyways,
They
beyond the
do.
point.
They do. It's obviously beyond the point. With Zelda, right? What they could do, and this is way far out, right? But possibly they could show another major Zelda villain, you know, at the end if they don't kill off Ganon, which I don't feel like. I mean, if they want to make this into a series, and they want to actually, because think about Majora's Mask. There's no Ganon in Majora's Mask. You're fighting Majora, right? You have Skull Kid. So like, if we kill off Ganon in the first movie, we need another villain, right? And a villain that has been abandoned, since Minish Cap or Four Swords Adventures? Vati, bro. Like that's a character that I would love to see. That's just a character we haven't seen in a long time. That's a huge, like, I pulled that out of the hat, right? Like, that's out of the hat, dude. Because obviously, Breath of the Wild has tons of characters. Like, Tears of the Kingdom has tons of characters. But I think if we're taking characters from any of the Zelda games, like, they should be iconic, you know, iconic characters. I don't feel like Vati's iconic necessarily, but also this gives them an opportunity to introduce people to this character that we haven't seen for a while. Or they could just leave them in the dust and forget about them forever, you know? So it's okay.
I got one. I got the man, the myth, the legend, Grouse from Skyward. No, I'm kidding.
No, sir.
As much as I love him, I don't think that would work.
I thought it was Drew some crazy, bro.
Is it Groose or Grouse? I don't know.
I thought
they
was
never
Groose.
say it. But I was thinking about this a lot, but someone kind of in the similar vein as yours, Rain, of potentially teasing a sequel, but I actually want him to be a character that Link interacts with at certain moments throughout the story, and that's the Happy Mask Salesman.
Oh my god. I failed.
I want Link I want Link to occasionally just run in to the Happy Mask Salesman on his journey, whether it's with Zelda or without Zelda, just as this like sort of creepy confidant that Link has who occasionally gives him cryptic advice, and the after credits would be one of the masks, of course, just falling, and you see like a hand maybe grab it to tease up Majora's Mask.
That would be so good.
I would really
that'd
want.
be so good.
Yeah. I would really want Happy Mask Salesman, and as the film guy, if we're going into something I definitely want to talk about when it comes to casting, eventually when we get to Ganondorf, I would want specifically Willem Dafoe to play the Happy Mask Salesman. Just that like creepy old man in the corner of the room with this like voice that haunts your dreams. I think that would be really cool.
The typecast. Love it. Love it.
It works.
I know everybody's like, Willem Dafoe needs to be Joker. Willem Dafoe needs to be this. Willem Dafoe should be everybody that has a crazy face. Like, if you look crazy and you're psycho, you need to be Willem Dafoe. So, I mean, yeah, I agree. Happy Mask Salesman, that's a great pick, honestly. Like, that's pretty smart. That'd be dope to see, especially like Fierce Deity, maybe. Not Fierce Deity in the first film. That's insane. But we should get the Fierce Deity eventually. That's the coolest Link has ever been. Most powerful that Link has ever been. So
Yeah, he just keeps trying to sell Link masks at random points. Link's like, no thanks. And then he just says, oh yeah, if you want to find who you're looking for, go here. How do you know that? Okay, bye.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the scene.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I will say I'm like just so interested to see what Beetle and Tingle look like.
Oh yes,
Oh,
they
God,
have
I
to be
didn't
in the movie.
think
That's
of
an
Tingle.
inevitability. That's literally inevitable. They're gonna have to be in the movie. Holy crap!
Yeah.
Oh my God, Tingle would be so funny. I hope.
Who's
they go...
playing Tingle, bruh? Who's playing Tingle?
Oh,
Will Ferrell.
God. Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Seth Rogen.
Oh no, it has to be some iconic comedian actor. That's like my idea. But bro, Kevin Hart.
Oh my God.
John Mulaney.
Somebody really small
Kevin
that's
Hart,
really
Kevin Hart
like
would be
frustrating.
hilarious.
Yes, Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart
is
would actually be pretty fun.
I'm not gonna lie, that's a killer, just random. I killed that, bro. Kevin Hart, not only is he a tiny person, but he can emulate Tingle very well.
Yeah, fan casting is always so much fun. I see it all the time of like some of the most absurd picks to pick certain characters in pop culture. You know, everyone's always talking about who's gonna play Batman in the upcoming movie. But Ganondorf, I think, if we want to get to that, I think Ganondorf's really interesting of a dilemma to pick who you want.
Noah
And,
earlier. I want Noah to talk
yeah.
after this because I want him to talk about his casting pick.
Noah, I'll let you go first.
No. Yeah, you guys can sit here and say whatever, but my casting pick is Trammell Tillman. So the reason I brought him up is just because, again, you know, he's in Severance, but I loved his role in Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, and he's also he's going to be in the new Spider-Man movie. I don't know, he just gives me the vibes of someone that would be a really good Ganondorf. I don't know that I can really explain it, but I just feel like it makes sense to me.
No, I agree, bro. Like, I love Trammell Tillman. I love Trammell Tillman. I watched Severance. That is possibly one of the best shows I've ever seen. I can't wait for season 3. Apple's been killing it recently with their original content. Trammell Tillman won a Primetime Emmy for his role, which he totally deserved, by the way. He's a fascinating villain that also has the ability to not only be just scary, but really, really comforting. And I feel like having a Ganon that could be like a comforting voice that can also crash out, that's the type of character I want Ganon to be. It's just like this, you know, not maybe like wise even, like just a wise, powerful, you know, manipulative character. That's what I feel like Trammell Tillman kills it at. It's just being like manipulative, intelligent, big. You know, if you've seen him run in Severance, where he's just like charging down the hall, like he's just this giant like monster of a figure, like just going doof, 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 doof. I feel like he could really think about Ganon in Smash, right? Like how Ganon just, you know, is just running around the field. He's super heavy. He's super low tier, you know? He's hitting you with the Doria. I feel like my boy Trammell Tillman could embody not only the body type that Ganon is, right? He could be huge, but also he could, you know, do the manipulative energy and also throw in a little bit of that terrifying, sinister villainy, you know, just straight hatred. Because that's what he does in Severance. He's a hateful, spiteful, but also, you know, introspective character.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think Trammell Tillman's a great pick. If to differentiate, I think for me, my favorite version of Ganondorf is Wind Waker. Like the older, sort of grizzled.
That's a classic popular
warrior. One. Yeah, he's out of time. He's tired, but he still has a goal and he wants to fulfill it by any means necessary. For me, I think an older Ganondorf would be really fun, and if I had to pick, Keith David is, you know, one of my favorite actors and voice actors just ever. He is getting a little old, but I think he can still pull off that role. especially with the stature of a Wind Waker-esque Ganondorf, and the voice and the presence that would command would be so interesting compared to like Link as this sort of, again, it's the David versus Goliath kind of vibe of, you have basically a kid who's just starting out in his life, and Ganondorf played by someone who's way older, and that sort of, what do you know? You're just a child kind of vibe that Link and Ganondorf have always given off, of less rivals and more like, they're always going to be rivals, but their dynamic of enemies is very different than a lot of popular video game protagonists and antagonists we see. So I think exploring that would be great. And also just having Ganondorf as a constant figure in the story is going to be so important. I think, Tears of the Kingdom, he really only, he shows up a lot in the memories, and I think having that but just implemented into the main story, just as many scenes focused on Ganondorf as there are of Link and Zelda. One of the, I think, best examples of a recent protagonist and antagonist is Superman and Lex Luthor. And obviously there's going to be a movie where they work together. I'm not saying Link and Ganondorf would ever work together, though that would be a cool opportunity for a later film. I just think having that dynamic where you get a lot of Lex scenes, and in this case a lot of Ganondorf scenes and a lot of Link scenes, would be a lot of fun. Preferably though, as little CGI as possible. I think that's just something broader scale.
I'd prefer them to do practical makeup for everybody as well.
Even for the monsters, something more practical. I think the only thing that should be CGI is if they do a Ganondorf monster form, and even that they could do with like miniatures and stuff, like a Godzilla kind of miniature, specifically Godzilla -1 and Shin Godzilla, how they do it.
That'd be cool.
But no, I don't really, even though Wes Ball has proven he can be capable with CGI characters in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I don't think you need it. I don't think this movie needs a ginormous budget. I think realistically most of it they could just do filming on location in New Zealand.
Yeah.
No, I definitely
probably will have a good budget though.
Practical effects are the most important, like 95% of the time. But I do have faith that they're going to do that. And, to close this out here, I have a question. Who's going to voice and who's going to be in the practical Great Deku Tree?
Oh.
I thought you were going to ask about Navi for half a second.
Because the Great Deku Tree is in Breath of the Wild. It's in Ocarina of Time. It's a pretty popular thing. It's going to have to be in this film, right? Who's going to voice the Great Deku Tree? I got to think about somebody really old. Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman would be crazy.
That's a very Nintendo, like, get the most popular guy you could think of, like, thing that they would do.
Yeah.
I think that's not even a bad pick.
No, I don't think it is either.
No, it's not. I mean, sadly, if this was a few years ago, I would have picked James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's no longer with us. But you've left me in a little bit of a stump here, because actually Keith David would also work as the Great Deku Tree. But I think someone who's really has a really storied voice acting career as well.
Clancy Brown.
I was literally just gonna say Clancy Brown. Yeah, Clancy Brown or Ron Perlman. Yeah, Clancy Brown or Ron Perlman as the Great Deku Tree would be awesome. And there's a lot of like easy ones, even going back to Ganondorf. Some people would say, oh yeah, Giancarlo Esposito, which actually wouldn't be a bad pick. I
tried to not say that one, by the way, because he just gets typecasted as villains all the time.
He does. But
and also, I feel like he's not big enough, and I want Ganon to be big.
Yeah, muscular.
That's why Tremel Tillman's a really good pick.
Definitely. But no, I think for the Great Deku Tree, either Clancy Brown or Ron Perlman. And if we're, if I may add on to your question, Noah, if we are talking about casting for voices, I think Navi will probably be part of the film as just the sort of comedic relief sidekick, sadly. And if they do have Navi in there, I don't want it to be Aquafina. That's for sure. But
please.
Yeah. Actually, I will actually throw that question to you guys first. Who would you want to play Navi?
If there was a Navi,
Nick Offerman, probably.
what's her name?
Oh, Nick Offerman would be funny. That would be funny, actually. It could also be Fi, They could also just cast the Master Sword.
I really don't know. I don't want to pick like a video game voice actor, Like I don't want to pick like somebody. I want to pick an actual actor because the likelihood of them just using actors for everything.
I mean,
like,
well, we saw what happened with the Mario movie. They got as much A-list talent as they could.
that's true.
So I expect the same here.
I expect the same. Yeah, that's why I can't pick a video game actor.
I can't wait for the Zelda Direct to be like Ganondorf, Robert Pattinson.
Oh wow! I'm not gonna even fathom that. By the way, if they do something like that, that's just not gonna make sense. And I feel like they'll do something like that just like to make me question my life.
If they do want to cast Robert Pattinson as a Zelda villain, I mean, there's Graham right there. Honestly, he could even be Navi, quite frankly, because have you seen him in Boy and the Heron? He can do weirdo voices.
Wait, you said Robert Pattinson is Girahim?
Yeah, throwing it out there.
Wait, is he gonna be CGI?
They could do makeup for that.
You want them to put makeup on Robert Pattinson to look like Girahim? I don't know. I don't agree with that. But again, yeah. Go ahead.
I think
you're good.
I think Navi. I mean, Robert Pattinson is like a joke, just because again, he's a pretty good voice actor. But yeah, I always imagined Navi as someone younger. So actually, I don't even think Navi, or if they cast Fi, or is it Fi instead? I never found that out. But whoever they cast, I think actually casting an unknown for that would be good. Sure, they could get an A-lister, but I think having someone that in an audition has good chemistry with the actor that plays Link, who will be Benjamin Ainsworth, I believe, would be very important. So it's a cop-out answer, but it's an answer I hope they do.
Yeah.
With that being said, that's going to do it for our discussion on the Zelda movie. Next year as we get closer and closer, maybe more set leaks, or of course the trailer that we assume we'll get probably towards the midpoint of next year at the earliest. That's kind of when we can continue to get excited about this, but I do think 2026 is going to be a great year for Zelda. There's a lot to look forward to, and yeah, we're all for it. We're really excited for the movie. Thank you guys so much for watching, and be sure to let us know down below your thoughts on potential castings for characters or what kind of story you'd like to see. But with that being said, we'll catch you next time.